Is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of the Stokastic NHL Strategy Show. I'm your host, Josh Harris. We got a 10-gamer after a 9-gamer. Don't remember the slate too much last night. I went to bed early. I don't even know, because I used Edmonton and it didn't go great.
I mean, I checked one of the single entries I played last night, and it was a guy, I'm pretty sure it was a cash lineup that won.
Yeah, that makes some sense because there wasn't like a standout performance last night that you needed. Yeah. Got 10 games here tonight. Lots of teams on a back-to-back. GPPs are always better on Tuesday than Mondays, so that's nice. There's more money to be won. Maybe you'll be able to pay off your credit card bill if you win a GPP as opposed to getting a nice spicy chicken sandwich from Wendy's. But joining me to break it down, Slim Cliffy. What's going on?
Spicy chicken sounds good right about now.
For real.
That might be supper tonight. Interesting slate last night. I mean, I don't think there weren't any huge surprises. Like we talked about Toronto, playing better defensively. Colorado starting Trent Miner. Avs top line being kind of leaky defensively, like those things kind of came to pass last night. Like that might be the big surprise, but Leafs have been a completely different team over the last 20 to 25 games than the 20 to 25 games before that. So that was a fun game. I went to bed after the second period, so I missed all the third period and overtime festivities, but that was a fun game. Montreal listen, man, I watch like 85 to 90% of Montreal games every year. I haven't seen them look like that in a game. I don't remember when. Like honestly, it's Vancouver, and I think it speaks more to where Vancouver is as a team right now than Montreal. The Canucks just as a tough scene, man. Bedard didn't play last night. Apparently he's sick. That flu that's going around, like it's in a few dressing rooms. We'll talk about Washington later. That's one. Those guys are losing like 8 to 10 pounds in like 24 to 48 hours. It is something else. So he didn't play last night. Hopefully it actually is just the flu and it's nothing related with his shoulder. You always worry about that when a guy returns from that kind of injury, but we'll see. Chicago's not on the board. There are 20 other teams on the slate here tonight. We have a new coach. Bones is back. Rick Bowness. I'm pretty sure Columbus won on Sunday and then fired their coach.
You know what? Going from Dina Vason to Rick Bowness is like, that Alex Jones meme where he's without his shirt and then 45 days later he's just a little more tan, but the same picture. That's literally like it's going from Dina Vason to Rick Bowness. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. So we got them on the board. There are a lot of back-to-back teams on the board, so there's going to be some late information, I imagine. We have a question in the chat. Can we talk about how to pick a main single entry stack? Like I always say, I don't usually take the expensive lines. Like Edmonton's back on the board again here tonight. They're 22,700. I feel pretty confident saying I'm not going to be playing the Oilers on a 4-5 game slate, something like that. Maybe I might play them. 10-game slate, like usually there's more than one path to victory. So I don't feel the need to play a super expensive stack. Other than that, I just generally avoid the super chalk, like the times that there's a team's at home to like, I don't know, like San Jose or Chicago or I don't know, maybe even Anaheim at this point. And it's like 4% top two stacked, 17% ownership. Like I just pass on those. Other than that, I just generally kind of go by the projections. Like I have my own. I also use stochastics, see where they match up, see where they differ. And just try to put the highest point projected lines together. I don't always do like a 3-3. I'll do a 3-2-1, power play stack, game stack, those types of things. That aspect of it, like do you do a 3-2-1 or do you do a power play stack or a game stack? That for me just varies from slate to slate. Sometimes, like last night, Stars were in a pretty good power play spot. But the Oilers weren't, the Lightning weren't. Like Carolina got 2 power play goals, I think, but they were from different units and they really weren't in a good PP spot. Like Vancouver was in a good PP spot. That kind of fell flat. Like last night wasn't a night where I was looking to power play stack necessarily. Tonight might be. We'll talk about that. But like, what kinds of stacks I attack, like what my lineup will look like, varies from slate to slate. But just as a general rule, on a big slate, I'll avoid the super expensive stacks. I usually go for two mid-priced ones, like two lines between like 16 and 19K, 15 and 19K, something like that. And usually just let the projections guide me. This is a game where the highest numbers win, and I like to have high numbers in my lineup.
Yeah, I mean, my advice sounds really stupid, but like I say it all the time in Discord when people ask, just play your guys. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not trying to win the 150 max tournament. If you happen to do it, that's great. But you're building for single entry. You don't need to completely galaxy brain yourself, because just play your guys. Because chances are you're not going to build just a cookie cutter 4-3-1 and be duped in single entry. So, like, if you love a super chalk line, they're your guys. Play them. There's so many ways to get different, and people be like, "Oh, what if you're duped?" And I'll just say, like, I'd rather tie for first with my guys than not cash because I faded them because of ownership. You know what I mean? So it's just like, I kind of agree with Cliffy. Like, I generally won't play like stupid chalk like Nashville 1 when they have like a 3% top 2 and like 21% ownership. It's not something I do. But if you love them and they're your favorite play, play them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many ways to get different with goalie, defenseman, the way you stack in single entry. A lot of the strategy on how to differentiate, when we talk about differentiating, without really saying it, we're talking about 150 max. Because like someone like Jake, who consistently 150 max, if he just slams cookie cutter 4-3-1s in his 150 max, he's going to get duped, and then your ROI goes significantly down. Because if you're playing the 5 and it's 5K to first, you're already putting in 750 to win 5K, right? And if you tie, you're going down to like 3,000. You're not making as much money. But like if you're playing single entry, $5 single entry, something like that, you can 200 extra money if you solo win. And chances are, like, you got to stop giving everyone else credit. They're not that good of players, you know what I mean? So like, play your guys. Just if the lineup comes together too easy, then you're like, maybe someone will have it. You could switch a defenseman, this and that. But generally, I just play my guys.
Yeah, like I agree with that. And I will also say, like, when it comes to a main stack, I don't necessarily mean like a $17,000, $18,000, $19,000 stack or something like that. Like, there are some nights where, like, you know, it's not going to be necessarily tonight, but just for example, like Philadelphia 1, like the Zegras, Dvorak, Konechny line, they're like between like 13 and 14K. If I think they're in a good home matchup and there's not that much ownership on them, they might be the 3 first guys into my lineup. And then I go look for a 17 or 18K line to pair with them, or a 16K line and an expensive defenseman or something like that. So the main stack, it's not even determined by price. Like I said, a lot of time, like for me, it's just guided by projections. And I think, like, if I, you know, again, for example, if I think Philadelphia 1, if they have good projections and I like the matchup, they'll be the first 3 guys in my lineup, and then I'll go look for an expensive stack to pair with them. Like, for me, the only time I factor price is the super expensive lines like Edmonton and Colorado and things like that. Other than that, it's just what the projection is, what the point per dollar value is, and go from there. So, but again, it varies from slate to slate, bigger slates, smaller slates, what your actual lineup might consist of: 4-3-1, 3-2-1, power play stack, those things. But I always say, like, when in doubt, let the projections guide you. Don't try to outsmart the projections.
Yeah, and if Edmonton's your guys tonight, put them in and then see what you can build around it. If you can't get comfortable, then maybe you think, you know, maybe I'll go somewhere else. But we should get into this slate. We do have 10 games. Before we get into it, we do have a promo code for you guys that does track our signups. If you use promo code PuckLuck, that'll get you 15% off any subscription. We have NFL playoffs going right now. PGA is back this week. UFC is back next week. Obviously, NBA, NHL. Go to stokastic.com/pricing. The link is in the chat. Use promo code PuckLuck. supports us. We thank you. Let's get into this first game here. Calgary Flames with a 3 total heading into Columbus. The Blue Jackets have a 3.4. Just like pulling Rick Bowness off the couch at 70 years old when you have like a similar coach is just, I don't know, man. It's not like going from what the Blues did to Jim Montgomery last season. Like Rick Bowness is one of those 200 old men of hockey, and his like coaching style is a little bit outdated, but we'll see what happens here. Calgary going Kadri, Huberdeau, Farabee, back on Coronado, Sharangovich. Columbus going Marchenko, Fantilli, Sillinger, Jenner, Monahan, Johnson, Voronkov, Coyle, Olivier. So like they obviously brought him Bonus in to make changes, and he made none to the lineup tonight. For some reason, Cole Sillinger is still on that top line. Very unfortunate. And they're coming in with 14.2% projected ownership on a 10-game slate at 14,800. The second line, Jenner, Monahan, Johnson, 11,300, 3% top two, 14.3%. I think that's the highest negatively leveraged line on the night, which is kind of unfortunate because in a small sample, they have been unbelievable, and they'll see pretty good matchups here against the Flames. You only get Johnson on the top power play unit, which is kind of unfortunate. This is one of those spots where that ownership is just too much for me, right? 3% top two, 14.3% projected ownership. I just like that is not something that I'm particularly interested in. If you want to go to like a line in that range, you can find decent ones in similar matchups for a tenth of the ownership. The top line with Fantilli, Marchenko, I have more interest in. I just wish they would flip-flop Voronkov and Sillinger. I don't really want to play a 14% line with Cole Sillinger on it. You do get Fantilli and Marchenko on the top power play. I guess if you wanted to lower the ownership, you can leave off Sillinger, add in Coyle or Johnson. It is a pretty good power play matchup. I'm not really sure how these power plays are going to work out for Columbus, but the Calgary penalty kill isn't great. That is one way you can get lower ownership in a high ownership game. So I don't know if I'd outright stack anybody. I like maybe a one-off Charlie Coyle, something like that, because that line's projected really low. Or I just throw Coyle into a Fantilli Marchenko stack. I don't think I'd outright stack any of these Columbus lines at that ownership. On the Calgary side, the Calgary top line is fully correlated. Kadri, Huberdeau, Farabee. They are 14K, 5.3% top two, 11.5% projected ownership. Like negative leverage on Calgary, double-digit ownership on a 10-game slate makes me nauseous. But like at that price, they've been pretty good. They're fully correlated. It's a great power play matchup. Like I don't think I'm going to get to Calgary, but like I wouldn't blame you if you played this line at that price, with their role and power play and stuff. So, it would be both top lines on both sides of this game, but the ownership is nauseating.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I know Calgary 1 is perfectly correlated. I guess that's something, but like, it's the Calgary power play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's not good. Any iteration of this Calgary power play has been bad for a year and a half now. So you want me to play Calgary with a bad power play on the road with their ownership at 2x their top two stack on a 10-game slate? Like, that's just a whole bunch of red flags for me. You want to play a super chalk Calgary Flames team on the road on a 10-game slate? Like, I will say fill your boots. That is not my bag, baby. So, 2.8 expected goals for that line in their time together. Like, okay, that's something. I think the big thing for me is like, I imagine they're probably going to get a fair bit of ice time. Like, that's the one thing you can probably hang your hat on is that, they've been demoting Morgan Frost basically steadily for like a few weeks now. No Blake Coleman. So like the second line is going to get ice time, but there's nobody left really to play on the third line with Frost, and they rarely play the fourth line anyway. So like the top line is probably going to see 19 to 22 minutes, 20 to 22 minutes. Like that's okay. Like that's something, but I mean, I guess they're fine because they're only 14K. But chalk Calgary Flames is one of those things that I just don't do, and somebody else wants to do it, like go ahead. Not for me. Like the Columbus side, like Jenner, Monty, and Johnson with like their ownership at like 5x their top two stack. That's also a no for me, dog. I think it's Marchenko, Fantilli, Sillinger. Like this isn't a game where I'm interested in power play stacking Columbus or anything. One thing that worries me is no Denton Mateychuk. It's not like after Zach Werenski, there's a whole like slew of good puck movers on the Columbus blue line. You know what I mean? I like Severson's fine, but like there's Werenski, there's Mateychuk, and then Severson's okay, but Severson's also a guy where his expected goals are always way, way higher than his actual goals on ice, like going back years and years. I don't really want to lean on him in a super chalk stack. Like, if anything in this game, I guess Columbus won, Marchenko, Fantilli, Sillinger, 8.1% ownership, at least, or 8.1% top two stack, at least the ownership's under 15%. That's somewhat reasonable. I don't really see myself stacking either side of this game amongst the forwards.
Yeah, it's just too much ownership for two ass teams. Tampa Bay Lightning with a 3.2 total heading into Pittsburgh. The Penguins have a 2.9. So Braden Point got hurt yesterday. He traveled with the team, but he was wearing a brace, so I would imagine he's out tonight.
If I'm not mistaken, they said he's seeing doctors. They don't expect it's anything serious, but I don't know why they would play him on a back-to-back.
Yeah, probably. Maybe he's seeing doctors in Pittsburgh, good hospitals there. Who knows? But so don't really know the lines, right? I will say if Tampa puts together like Cirelli, Hagel, Kucherov, that would give me a lot of interest. I think they're 21,200. With Point out, maybe it's fully correlated. Maybe not. I doubt Cirelli gets up there.
Yeah, I think because who was it that got hurt like a month ago or so? They missed some time. Was it Hagel?
Might have been, yeah. And it was Bjorkstrand who went up there, right?
Yeah. Well, no, it was one of the big boys. It was Hagel or Kucherov, one or the other, missed a bunch of games. What they did was whoever it was. So you have Kucherov, Cirelli, Hagel, and Gensel left over. Like one of those four guys at least is going to be on the ice at all times. And
actually might have been Point, actually, who was hurt before.
Yeah. Either way, between their top four forwards that are left, at least one, if not two, were on the ice at all times, but it was rarely consistent combinations. It was like, maybe you see Cirelli and Hagel go out with Gensel, and then the third line would go, and then the next time around would be Hagel, Cirelli with Kucherov, and then the third, and then the fourth line, and then you'd see Gensel, Cirelli, Kucherov. Like they just made sure at least one, if not two, of their top forwards were on the ice at all times.
Yeah. So basically what Cliffy's getting at is if you want to play Tampa here, play Kucherov, Hagel, or Gensel. I guess you could put in Cirelli because he'll still play probably 19, 20 minutes. Pittsburgh isn't a very good defensive team at all. It's Artur Shilov's in net as well. He has under a 9 save percentage this season. I do really like Tampa here, despite them being back-to-back on the road, especially because there's no lines. But like as Cliffy said, just play the big guys. It's kind of like Edmonton. Just play the big boys here. They're going to play their minutes. It's a great matchup. I would probably mix and match between Gensel, Hagel, Cirelli, and Kucherov. I guess you could work in Bjorkstrand if you wanted to, but it's not a great power play match. I mean, the Pittsburgh penalty kill has kind of fallen off. So, like, I guess you could work in Bjorkstrand or something like that, but I'd stick to the big guys there. On the Pittsburgh side, I guess it's not a great matchup despite, Point being out. Tampa has a great penalty kill. They're generally decent defensively. I'd probably, if you want to do like Crosby Raquel or something like that, or a one-off Ben Kindle, a two-man with Justin Brazeau, something like that. But that top line, I'm not super interested in them. I'd probably stick to one-offs on the Pittsburgh side.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing for me is no Erik Karlsson for the Penguins, right? Yeah. Like, you talk about Denton Matejchuk out. Well, at least Columbus has Werenski, maybe Severson can be fine. Pittsburgh, it's like, who's left? You know what I mean? Like, there's just, I mean, you can say Chris Letang. I don't know if anybody's actually watched Chris Letang play this year. That's a guy. I mean, listen, he's heading to I think he's going to be heading to the Hall of Fame. That's a conversation for another day. He looks capital C cooked. Like, I don't know how else to put it. After that, Brian Shea, Parker Witherspoon, like those guys, those are fine guys to have in lesser roles, not featured defensemen required to play along with Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin and all that. Facing a Tampa team that generally has had, a good penalty kill over the last 5 weeks. It's been league average, which, not great, but over the course of the entire season, it's 7th by goals against per minute. So, not really a good power play spot for the Penguins, missing the best puck moving defenseman they have.
By the only puck moving defenseman.
Possibly the only one that they have. I don't know. I don't feel very good about playing the Penguins here tonight. I think for me on the Tampa side, I don't mind playing Tampa here tonight. The thing with Cirelli is he's only 5,200. He might have to play more than 19 minutes. He might have to play 2,100. They only have so many centers that could play, right? It's not like, Dominic James is all of a sudden going to play 18 or 19 minutes here tonight. You know what I mean? Cirelli might. So I'd be pretty tempted to go Cirelli Kucherov, Cirelli Hagel, something like that. Cirelli's only 5,200. I do think he's going to have to play a bunch of minutes. And, you give me Anthony Cirelli playing 20 plus minutes with at least one of Kucherov or Hagel or Gensel going out against, Chris Letang or whomever shooting against Artuš Silovs. I like that quite a bit. So I would probably pair Cirelli with one of the wingers. If you want to go more than that, I think that's fine. But, those guys are all reasonably expensive. Hagel's 6,600. It's not too bad, but Kucherov's up to 9,400 now. Kucherov, 53 points in his last 26 games. That'd be I think a top 100 mark amongst the forwards for a full season, and he's done it in the last 5 weeks. There's 6 weeks or whatever. It's just nuts. So yeah, that's where I would be on Tampa Bay. I do wonder who's going to take point spot on the top power play unit. I'm not sold they just slide in Cirelli or something like that. It might be Nick Paul. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I think a Nick Paul one-off might be fine. He might have to see some more ice time here tonight. He's not having a very good season, but 2,600 if you need a punt, there are worse options. But the only thing I really have interest in this game is Cirelli plus 1 or 2 of the wingers, and that's it.
Yep. I guess maybe Connor Clifton can move a puck occasionally, but,
Where? Into his own net?
It's moving.
I guess, yeah.
Vancouver Canucks, I'm out with a 2.6 total. Into Ottawa, the Sens have a 3.8. We'll have to see if Kiefer Sherwood's back, but I'm out. Going in.
Listen, I said, Vancouver did get run over fairly handily last night against the Habs. I watched that game from start to finish. kind of feel bad for Vancouver fans. I rarely feel bad for other fans of other Canadian teams. What I will say is that at the very least, that DeBrus, Pettersson, Carlson line was creating some offense, right? Yeah. Like there really wasn't a whole lot else going on. Like I'm pretty sure the second, third, and fourth lines combined for like 8 shots, and the top line had 6. You know what I mean? Like they were actually creating offense and looked dangerous for a good chunk of their shifts. It was the rest of the lineup just didn't. They looked like shit.
Yeah, I mean, if you're 20 to 150 maxing and you're using an optimizer or whatever, and you get 1 or 2 Pettersson line, like fine. But generally speaking, in single entry, no, thank you. Ottawa switched up their lines. They're going Stützle, Batherson, Zetterlund, Cousins, Tkachuk, Giroux, Pinto, Amadio, Grieg. Probably doing some sort of, like, I guess you could just stack either of the top 2 lines. Like, I probably just go to Cousins, Tkachuk, Giroux. But at that point, I'd probably just want to add on Drake Batherson or something like that. Like, Stützle is 7,100. And when he doesn't have Tkachuk on his wing, it's not as good. So I'd probably go to Cousins, Tkachuk, Giroux. If you want to add in somebody, fine. But it's a good power. It's a good 5-on-5 matchup for them. So I'd probably just leave them. If you want to go to Pinto, Amadio, Grieg, fine. But like I'd probably just go to that Tkachuk line. I know they have a massive total, 3.8. So if you do want a power play stack, that's fine. But I'm more likely just to stack Cousins, Tkachuk, Giroux.
Yeah. Do want to mention that Ottawa's last game, they took Cousins off the power play and put Giroux on. I wonder if that sticks.
It might. Yeah.
It might, because the power play had been scuffling a little bit. Like that's kind of why they did it. It doesn't. I mean, it probably doesn't really change a whole lot. You know what I mean? I was looking at Stützle and Batherson. You're right. Like without Tkachuk, 58 shot attempts, 2.6 expected goals, 4 per 60. I know Stützle had some pretty big games there in the first 2 months of the season or whatever without Tkachuk in the lineup. I think, he was getting a little bit lucky. Don't get me wrong. Stützle's a great player. I think 2 things can be true. Like he played very, very well, extremely well through the first 2 months. And he also got a little bit lucky. Like that's kind of the way that I look at it. He does get a lot of ice time, and it is a pretty good power play spot. Like the Canucks penalty kill stays bad. The Senators, the most power play opportunities per game over the last 5 weeks, 4th most in the league over the course of the season. Like they might get 3 or 4 or 5 cracks at it here tonight. Obviously no Thatcher Demko playing. So like, I don't know. Like I'm kind of fine with Ottawa 1. They are reasonably expensive. I kind of would just dip down to Ottawa 2, I think. You know what I mean? Tkachuk and Cousins control the play extremely well in their small sample together this year. 68 shot attempts, 452 against per 60. Obviously, like Claude Giroux might be on the top power play unit now. If he's not, it'll be Dylan Cousins. So one way or another, you get 2 out of the 3 on the top power play unit. Giroux has 10 points in his last 10 games, averaging 2 shots per game in that span. So he's getting involved. And the thing is that, that line's not going to see any hard matchups. They're going to see bottom 6 from the Canucks. And listen, man, I watched that game last night. I've been watched a handful of Canucks games since they traded Quinn Hughes. Like the bottom 6 is non-existent. It's just a great matchup for them. There's not a ton of ownership coming in on the Sens either, despite the high total. I think I would just go down to Ottawa 2. Like playing Stützle at his price, like you said, feels very steep. Just for a few $100s more, you got Wyatt Johnston going into Anaheim. You know what I mean? So like, I don't know. For me, it's Ottawa 2 in this game. I think Vancouver 1 is in play. The problem is like it is not a good 5-on-5 matchup for them. The Ottawa penalty kill has been getting better, But, that Vancouver top line, 14,100, not coming in with any ownership, like 0.7% projected ownership. They scored last night. They only got 1 goal, but they did get on the board. 55 minutes together, 67 shot attempts, 4.7 expected goals per 60. Pettersson has 16 points in his last 20 games. Like, that's not incredible, but that's like a 65 to 70 point pace, which is a lot better than what he was last year. So I don't mind Vancouver 1 here. For me, it goes Ottawa 2, Vancouver 1 out of this game.
Montreal Canadiens with a 2.8 total. Heading into Washington, the Caps have a 3.3. Sordif and Wilson are still out. Chikrin's a game-time decision. The lines that we have in top stacks right now are a little outdated, but I would imagine that Strome and Ovechkin will be together, and McMichael and Leonard will be together. It's just a matter of if Protas goes to the top or the second line. Montreal, after winning last night, will obviously run the same lines back. With all these injuries and stuff on the Washington side, it's a
just one thing on Montreal. They said Josh Anderson's playing tonight. I imagine it's somebody like Sammy Blais or Joe Veleno, or probably not Veleno. Probably Sammy Blais comes out, but just something for the third line to watch out for. That's all.
Yep. With all the injuries to Washington, like, this is a pretty good matchup for the Canadiens, despite it being Logan Thompson. Like, that top line has been ridiculous. Obviously, the numbers got better last night because they were playing the Canucks, but they're almost up to 4 expected goals per 60 and almost 100-minute sample with Texier there. Texier seems to have found a home next to Suzuki and Caulfield. I don't mind going back to that line. I don't know what just happened to my screen, but let me roll up here. They are 16,400, 3.3% top 2, 1% projected ownership. Like, I know they're back-to-back on the road. I know it's a 10-game slate, and I know it's Logan Thompson, but, like, whether they see the Nick Dowd line or the Strome line or the McMichael line, it doesn't matter. It's a good matchup for Montreal 1. So at 1%, like, in single entry, am I going to prioritize them? I don't think so. But if you're doing some sort of like mid-range build here tonight, they are definitely in a better spot than meets the eye. So I don't mind Montreal 1 here. Montreal 2 is good from the sense that it's a good power play matchup. Slavkovsky's look good on the top power play unit. I saw a stat, I think it was JFresh, is like, with Ivan Demidov on the ice, his teammates are shooting like 18% this season, which is the highest in the NHL. So, which makes sense when you look at this line's numbers: 2.6 expected goals per 60, 4.9 actual. That checks out. So I don't mind that line because you get 2 of the 3 on the top power play unit as well. But it definitely would be Montreal 1 for me. On the Washington side, I think it would be some sort of power play stack. Now, it depends if Chikrin's in or not, because Ethan Frank was on the top unit this morning. But if Chikrin plays, I would imagine it's going to be Chikrin over Frank. So I'd probably do something like just go Strome, Ovechkin, Leonard, or something like that.
I don't know, man. Like, because they're running 4 forward, 1 defenseman. It might be like Strome, Ovechkin, Leonard, Frank, Chikrin
instead of Carlson.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it could be Frank, depending on the salary.
And sorry, one more thing. Frank did finish the game with Ovechkin and Strome last game. He played like his final 6 or 7 shifts with them.
Yeah, so he could be up there as well. He's only 3,100. So, I do something like Strome, Ovechkin, Leonard if Frank is on that top line, or you need salary savings for power play 1. He is $2,300 cheaper than Leonard. So you could put in Frank there. So it would be some sort of Capitals power play stack.
Yeah, it's funny. Obviously with Logan Thompson in, the numbers are better. The goals against are better than with Charlie Lindgren. But I was looking over the last 25 games. Montreal 3.41 expected goals against per 60. Washington 3.43. Actual goals against per 60. Montreal 2.86, Washington 2.87. Again, better with Thompson than with Lindgren, but these have been 2 fairly identical defensive teams over their last 25 games, and Washington's generally done it with better save percentage. Like I don't mind the spot here for Montreal, especially if Chychrun is out. Like sort of, yes, he will make a difference on the second line because it helps lengthen out their forwards. But, you take out Chychrun, this is a team that relies on their defensemen to get involved in the play, move the puck, and jump into the cycle when they're in the offensive zone. They have other guys that can do that, but not quite as well as Chychrun. And then, of course, like there's no Sordif, no Wilson, no Pierre-Luc Dubois. Like that's basically the entire second line. So like as good as the Caps are, you take out their entire second line plus their top defenseman. Like a team can only take so many losses. Like you said, Montreal won. The numbers got better last night, but they're up to 4 expected goals for per 60 at 5-on-5 in their time together, 95 minutes. Suzuki, 10 points in his last 10 games. Obviously, Texier's been on a little heater. I think they're firmly in play here. I'm not worried about any of the matchups. I was looking Washington's top line, Strome and Ovechkin, when they don't have any of the 3 wingers they usually play with, Wilson, Protas, or Beauvillier, 2.7 expected goals against, 63 shot attempts against. That's not very good. The second line is even worse when they don't have Wilson. So I think it's a fine matchup for Montreal 1. I think if you want to dip down to Montreal 2, like that's okay as well. 14,100. They're getting good ice time. They're getting like 16 to 18 minutes a game. You get 2 out of the 3 guys on the top power play unit. As good of a power play matchup as it is for Washington, it's as good of a power play matchup for Montreal. Montreal's power play has been much better this year. Washington bottom 10 penalty killing metrics over the last 5 weeks, bottom 10 penalty kill over the course of the season, taking 3.3 penalties per game over the last 5 weeks. It's the 6th highest rate in the league. Over the course of the season, the difference between these two teams in time shorthanded per game is 0.05 power plays. So like basically identical. So I do think either Montreal 1 or Montreal 2. What I will say is like we talked earlier about putting a line into your lineup and then building around that. I'm not building around Montreal. It's like if like you said, if I have a mid-range build, like I'm playing, we'll talk about, if I'm playing Pittsburgh 1, let's say something like that, and I want a $13,000, $14,000, $15,000 line, then Montreal 2 comes into play. It's not like I put in Montreal 2 and then go look for another line. Like that's the way that I look at it. On the Washington side, I think it's the top line, and for me, it's probably just an ice time thing. Like with all the injuries, Strome and Ovechkin are gonna have to play a lot, and I would honestly just put Ethan Frank with them, especially if he's on the lineup card with them at warmups. That line would be 17,500. Strome and Ovechkin typically don't play a lot, but they're gonna have to play 19 to 21 minutes here tonight. Facing Sam Montembeault, who's been better since he came back, but not nearly what he was last year. Montreal's penalty kill average at best. So I honestly think that what I like best in this game is Washington 1, but I do think you consider either of the top 2 Montreal lines depending on what you do with your primary stack.
Detroit Wings with a 3.1 total heading into Boston. The Bruins have a 3.4. Detroit played last night. They beat Carolina in overtime with Gibson, so it's going to be the Cambot in net tonight. Boston going Pasternak, Lindholm, Kuznetsov, Arvidsson, Zacha, Middlestat, and then Geeky is back with Minton and Steves. Detroit probably running back what they ran yesterday, Kopp, DeBrincat, Kane, and then Larkin with Poop, and then Comfer, Van Riemsdyk, and Raymond. Starting on the Detroit side, like the only line that I really have interest in is probably the top line from a full stack standpoint. They're their best line, but it's 16K, 7% top to 6.5% projected ownership. I'd probably find a way to turn that into a power play stack, whether it's leave Comfer off and add in Larkin or DeBrincat. That's probably where I would go. That line's 11,800. Comfer. You leave off Comfer and you add in Larkin, it becomes 15,900. That's probably where I go. I don't think I'm prioritizing Detroit here tonight, back-to-back on the road on a 10-game slate. It is a very good matchup. Boston takes a ton of penalties, and their penalty kill isn't great. So that's why if I was going to do something with Detroit, it would be a power play stack. On the Boston side, this top line, Pasternak, Lindholm, Kuznetsov, 16,900, 13.3% top two, 17% projected ownership. That stings the nostrils. Like they've been good from a scoring standpoint in a smaller sample and a possession standpoint, not from a creation standpoint, but it's a, it would be the line I would want to play, but 17% ownership is just a bit bonkers for me. I think, if you wanted to go down to Minton Geeky, new dad energy for Morgan Geeky, that 2-man is like 9,200, and they'll avoid the cider pairing. They'll see bottom six matchups. So, if you want to play Boston 1, they're fine. I know everyone on that line had like a 47-point game the other night against the Rangers, so I get the ownership here, but I'd probably go down to Minton and Geeky.
Yeah, on the Detroit side, like, it sucks because this is a really good power play spot for the Wings, right? Like you said, Boston takes a ton of penalties, 3.7 per game over the last 5 weeks, second most in the league over the course of the season, the most in the league at 3.8 per game. Troy's power play, they've changed things up a little bit, but JVR is there now. With or without Patrick Kane, the Detroit power play has been pretty good. So, like, it's a really good power play matchup for the Detroit. The problem is you got Dylan Larkin playing, playing with without DeBrincat, without Raymond, without Kane, like skating basically by himself on the top line. Like we talked yesterday about how bad Larkin's numbers are when he doesn't have one of the top wingers on the ice with them. And I went and looked at last night's game. They got outshot 8-1 when Larkin was on the ice at 5-on-5. Like I know it was Carolina, but they got, I think the shot attempts were like 21-3 in Carolina's favor with Larkin on the ice. Like that line of 5-on-5 just can't do anything. There's just not enough talent. Not enough. There's no talent on the wings. Like, I don't know what's happened with Marco Kasper. Like he's just been terrible this year. So that's the tough part here is like, I don't think that line's going to score at 5-on-5. So if you put Dylan Larkin in, he's got to do it all on the power play or with an empty net. And he actually did that a couple of games ago. I think he had it was a 2-point game and it was like an assist on the power play and a goal with the empty net, or a goal on the power play and assist with the empty net, like something like that. Like that can happen. What I'm perfectly fine with here is just going with a 2-man of the wingers, Van Riemsdyk plus DeBrincat or Van Riemsdyk plus Raymond. One reason why I would almost kind of lean DeBrincat over Raymond, like I've written about this a couple times in my newsletter. If you look at DeBrincat's involvement in the play, like zone entries, carrying the puck into the zone, assisting on scoring chances, like elite in the NHL over the last year and a half, like amongst the elite in the league. Like it's not quite McKinnon, McDavid levels, but it's at the top of the next tier, like in line with your David Pasternaks and your Kucherovs and things like that. He's so involved in the play, it's hard to leave him off a stack. And it shows in the production that he's had. Even his, quote, slowdown of late is 9 points in his last 10 games. Like, what I mean? That's almost a 75-point pace over the course of a full season. So I'd be perfectly fine just doing like a 2-man of like Van Riemsdyk plus DeBrincat. If you want to just stack the 5-on-5 line with Comfort, Raymond, and JVR, I think that's fine. That's the line I would probably go to at 5-on-5, but this is a spot where I want to get Detroit power play guys in. So at the very least, I start with JVR, build out from there, add in DeBrincat probably, Raymond possibly, Larkin, I don't know, man. He really has to thread a needle to pay back his price just because his winger sucks so much ass. On the Boston side, like, it's kind of funny they're coming off that massive game. I mean, the top line shooting over 22% is currently constructed. Like, obviously, that's not going to persist. Don't really have a ton of interest in the second line. Minton and Geeky is kind of interesting. They've only played 60 minutes together this season, but 69 shot attempts, 3.4 expected goals per 60 in their time together. That line doesn't look half bad to me. This isn't a spot where I'm necessarily stacking for a Boston power play matchup. Like, Detroit doesn't take a ton of penalties and their penalty kill's not awful or anything. So I'm kind of fine with the third line. Like, if you want a 2-man like Minton and Geeky, play all three of them, add in Steve's. So Steve's, Geeky, Fraser, Minton for 12,400. I think that's fine as a filler. there's not a lot of competition in the Detroit depth, especially on the blue line. So I honestly think it's both third lines in this game I like best. I lean to the Detroit side just because of the power play matchup.
Carolina Hurricanes with a 3.3 heading into St. Louis. The Blues have a 2.7. Carolina going Aho, Svechnikov, Ehlers, Jarvis, Stahl, Martinook, Blake, Stankoven, Hall. They lost in overtime to Detroit yesterday. Blues going Dvorsky, Kyrou, Neighbors, Shen, Stenberg, Snuggerud, Buchnevich, Bukestad, Bergen. God help that team. Out on the Blues, I guess. Like
I mean, especially with no Broberg, right?
Yeah, it's like Dvorsky, top line center. Him and Neighbors have played a little bit together this year, but they've gotten run the fuck over. So, like, there's 3 playable lines on Carolina here. You know, that top line's 19,800 with a 6.6% top 2, 0.6% projected ownership. They're fine. Like, their offensive numbers are outrageous and they're fully correlated, but like, I'm just going to go back to Stankoven, Hall, Blake at 11,900, 1.2% top 2 stack, 1% ownership. They have 3.6 expected goals for actual in 177 minutes. Matchups don't matter. It legit doesn't matter. So I'll save the $8,000, because I would imagine if like Carolina goes up early, they're going to monitor that top line's minutes, especially being back to back. So I'll just take the extra savings, go get that cheap line that has played excellent together. If you want to go to Stahl, Martinook, Jarvis, that's completely fine. They're $1,500 more, but for me, it's Carolina too.
Yeah, I have no interest in the Blues here. We've talked over and over how Broberg's easily, like, we talked about Matejchuk missing for Columbus. This is like if Matejchuk was missing for Columbus, and then also Zach Werenski and Damon Severson, we're out with the flu. Like, there's just nobody that can move the puck on this blue line. I was looking because Parayko and Broberg had been the top pair for a good chunk of the season for St. Louis. With that pair on the ice, the Blues are giving up 2.1 goals against per 60. That's really, really good. That pair off the ice, the Blues are giving up 3.1 goals against per 60. That is absolutely horrific. Maybe him and Fowler can be okay, but once you get past that, they cannot be okay. I agree with you on Carolina too. Blank, Stankoven, Hall, 180 minutes together, 3.6 expected goals. They're not skating a ton, but they're priced as if they're not skating a ton. 11,900. 1.2% top 2 stack, 1% ownership. So not very much ownership coming in on them. Perfectly correlated on the power play. Like, they obviously, it's the second power play unit. They don't get as much time, but being perfectly correlated on a power play for a line that is playing this well at 5-on-5, even if it's only 90 seconds a game of power play time, like that adds a good amount of value. Yeah, I really do like Carolina too here. I think all 3 Carolina top lines are in play. But considering the price, I'd rather play Carolina 2 than Carolina 3. I think the Carolina top line is fine. 19,800 feels pretty expensive to me. I do think they're in play just because of the ownership, 0.6%. Like, for me, that's, of all the lines on the board here tonight that are coming in with low ownership, the expensive lines, that's the one I would play. Like, I wouldn't play Toronto. I wouldn't play Tampa. I wouldn't play Winnipeg, maybe Dallas. Just even that ownership's not very low. For me, it'd be Carolina. If I want a low owned expensive line here tonight, it's the Carolina top line. Without, like, I don't think it's kind of undersold just how important Broberg is to this team. They have no one that can replace him in any way, shape, or form, even as good as Colton Parayko is. But for me, it's Carolina 2 I like best in this game. And yeah, Carolina 3 is perfectly fine as well.
New York Islanders with a 2.6 total. Heading into Winnipeg, the Jets have a 2.9. Islanders going Barzal, Lee, Duclair, Ritchie, Heineman, Drouin, Pajot, Holmstrom, Shabanov. Winnipeg going Connor, Scheifele, Iafallo, Velarde, Perfidi, Taze. So starting on the Winnipeg side, it's like, I don't love Iafallo up there, but the way Winnipeg kind of matches at home, they'll see bottom 6 matchups against the Islanders, and that third line for the Islanders.
Well, they've been using them more in top line just because Adam Lowry, since he came back from injury, he's not been very good.
Yeah. I mean, the Barzal line hasn't been anything good defensively either. So
the entire team is bottom matchups.
Yeah. So, like, I don't mind that top line here tonight. 8.6% top 2, 3.9% projected ownership. If you wanted to make it more of a power play stack, you could leave off Iafallo, add in Taze, save $200. I don't know, really not sure why Jonathan Taze is on the top power play unit, but whatever. If you want to go to that second line, Taze, Perfidi, Velarde, 12,100, 0.7% top 2, 0.7% ownership. Like, they haven't been great, but like none of the Islanders lines have been good defensively. And you get 2 of the 3 on the top power play, but I'd probably just go to the top line, either leave Iafallo there or add in another power play guy. On the Islanders side, like, I'm not really interested in anything on the Islanders side. If anything, it would be Barzal, Lee, Duclair, 12,800, just because they're going to play a ton of minutes. But it is going up against Hellebuck, so I don't particularly love it.
Yeah, if anything, for me on the Winnipeg side, it's the top line. Like, that second line for the Jets is 12,100. We just talked about Carolina too. They're $200 cheaper. Like, I would rather play them. The Detroit third line we talked about earlier, comp for Raymond Van Riemsdyk, they're 11,800. I would rather play them as well. So, like, I don't really want to play Winnipeg too. It would be the Winnipeg top line. They're at 2.6 expected goals per 60 with Iafallo there, nearly 110 minutes together. Like, Iafallo's really not the reason why we didn't mind playing Iafallo when he first joined the line was because he was on the top power play unit. Now that he's not there, I don't really feel the need to play him. Like, he's not really a shooter or a playmaker. He's a guy that just kind of digs pucks out to get them to the skilled forwards. So, like, you know, I think he can take out Iafallo, and if you want to make it more of a power play stack, go up to Gabriel Velarde. Like, Islanders penalty kill bottom 8 by, you know, shots against and expected goals against and all that on the penalty kill over the last 5 weeks. Islanders penalty kill over the course of the season hasn't been bad. It's been basically because of goaltending, which has been the story of the Islanders season, other than Matthew Schaefer. Other than Schaefer, it's been Ilya Sorokin that has saved them. He can do that again here tonight. Like, I think, you know, Winnipeg won just because they're not super expensive is in play at 18,800. Gonna be honest, I would probably rather just pay the extra $1,000 and go play Carolina, or, you know, whatever the Washington top line ends up being. If it is protest there, it's not that much more expensive. If it's someone like Ethan Frank or Ryan Leonard, be a little bit cheaper. So, like, yeah, I'd rather play like Washington or Carolina here than I would that Winnipeg top line. So I'm out on Winnipeg. Funny thing about the Islanders, this is, of all the teams to do this, to do it with this lineup, Richie, Heineman, Drouin perfectly correlated on the top power play units. What? So, like, for that reason alone, you have to at least consider them. The only reason I would consider them is that they're 9,800. We'll get to Edmonton in a second. If you're playing an Edmonton power play stack or a Dallas power play stack or something like that, and you do need a stack under 10K or a couple guys for like 7,000 total or something like that, this is a line that you go to just because they're going to get ice time and they're correlated on the power play. Other than that, like, Callum Ritchie and Jonathan Drouin, 65 minutes together, 2 expected goals, 4 per 60. Like, they're not good. But when they're that cheap, all they need to do is get lucky on one shot and they'll pay off. So I think I honestly, I swear, I think my favorite line in this game is Islanders 2. I am not playing any forward out of this game.
Let's move on. Edmonton Oilers with a 3.3 total heading into Nashville. The Preds have a 3.2. Edmonton back-to-back on the road here. They're going McDavid, Hyman, Nugent Hopkins, Draisaitl, Podkolzin, and Kapanen. Nashville has a couple game time decisions, but, you know, I think they Sunday they went O'Reilly, Evangelista, Bunting, Forsberg, Hollis, Stamkos.
Well, that's I think that's how they ended up. They started with Evangelista, O'Reilly, Forsberg, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we'll see what the lines are. Like, if it's O'Reilly, Forsberg, Evangelista, or something like that, I would have some interest. But like, Nashville's coming in with ownership here, and that I don't like. I don't ever really like playing Nashville when they're chalk. I know it's back-to-back on the road, but they activated Wallman and they activated Yari, so both of them should be playing. Not that Tristan Jarry is a world beater, but like, he's probably their best goalie that they've had this season. So like, I don't know. Like, I would have to wait and see on the Nashville lineup, because if they go back to O'Reilly, Evangelista, Bunting, and Forsberg, Hall, Stamkos, like, I'm just out on that. There's some combination that we don't know that you probably get for a little bit lower owned, I would be interested, but like, it's not a 7 p.m. Eastern start, so it's kind of hard to say what to do. I'd never say no to a Forsberg one-off or Evangelista one-off or something like that, but in terms of stacking, I'm not really sure what to do here until we know the lines. On the Edmonton side, it's Edmonton 1, Edmonton power play. Same spiel as yesterday. Listen, like, the big guys got a little bit more expensive. Draisaitl's up to 9,300. McDavid's 10,300. They're almost 20K for the two of them. I probably just go Edmonton 1 here. They're 22,700. They've been excellent. If you want to find a way to work in Draisaitl, you can. You probably end up playing that Islanders line that Cliffy just talked about, or even worse. So, like, if you want to get them in, figure out what you want to fit with them, and if you're comfortable with it, go with it. Otherwise, I just go to Edmonton 1.
Yeah, I mean, if it is like Hollis, Stamkos, Forsberg, that would probably be the line I would go to on the Nashville side, just for ownership purposes, right? Like you said, like, if they do go with O'Reilly, Evangelista, Bunting, like, that line might be at least 2x, if not 3x ownership over the top 2 stack. Like, that's just, we said at the top of the show, Super Chalk Nashville is just a giant X. So would be going to Bunting, Stamkos, and Forsberg if that's indeed the line or Hollis, Stamkos, Forsberg, my apologies. If that is indeed the line, we don't know what it's going to be. Like, I think this is a solid power play matchup for Nashville. So this is a case where I'm not super concerned about the 5-on-5 lines. I don't mind taking 2-mans from the Preds, almost regardless of who it is. Like, you could do like Hollis, Stamkos, Hall, Evangelista, O'Reilly, like O'Reilly, Forsberg. Like, just because this is a good power play matchup, right? Like, the Oilers league average time shorthanded per game. Nashville is solid at drawing penalties. The top power play unit is like 12% better than the league average for a top power play unit in Nashville by goal scoring. Like, they've been good. So I think it's a solid power play matchup for Nashville. I would just focus, you do want to get in like one of Holla or Bunting because they're so cheap. So like I said, you do like Holla, Stamkos, Evangelista, or O'Reilly, Bunting, Stamkos, like something like that. Like, that's what I would do here, just because those guys are going to play in the top 6, and which 4 guys are going to be on the top power play unit. On the Edmonton side, it's kind of a replay of last night, just against what I think is a better team. It's like Nashville has had a good penalty kill this year. Like, over the last 5 weeks, nearly an identical goals against per minute to what Chicago had. Edmonton was in Chicago last night. Over the course of the season, 8th by goals against per minute on the penalty kill. Like, again, the disclaimer always is Edmonton can shred any penalty kill on any given night. This isn't necessarily a good power play matchup for the Oilers. So I would go to the top line. I'm not paying 22,700 for the Edmonton top line road back-to-back in a below average power play matchup. So I think I'm kind of out on the Oilers here. The defensemen are a different story. We'll talk about that later. I think the Oilers defensemen are certainly in play. Amongst the forwards, I'm kind of out. I guess I like the Nashville side better. Again, I think you just have to focus on 4 power play guys plus Balla and Bunting. Holla and Bunting, and like I said, take 2 of the 3, take 3 out of 3, something like that, just because they're going to be in the top 6 and which 4 are on the power play.
Toronto Maple Leafs with a 2.8 total heading into Utah. The Mammoth have a 3.3. Toronto back-to-back on the road. They beat the Avs yesterday with Woll, so it's going to be the Hildebeest in net most likely. They'll probably run back Matthews, Nyes, Domi, Nylander, Tavares, Michelli. Did they mix it up?
Yeah. Nyes got yeeted off the top line last night. They moved up Bobby McMahon. Nyes went to, I think it was the third line. He went and played with Cowan and Roy. McMahon ended up playing like almost 19 minutes last night.
I mean, that kind of does make sense when you look at those lines numbers of late. I don't have a ton of interest anyway in the Leafs, especially back-to-back on the road in Utah. It's not a great matchup. Maybe I go to that second line, Tavares, Michelli, Nylander at 16,000, 0.2% projected ownership. Like if you work them into MME, that's fine. I think a one-off Matthews is fine as well. But I'm not super high on the Leafs here. Utah mixing up their lines as well. They're going Keller, Schmaltz, Krause, Genther, Carcone, McBain, Peterka, Hayton, Cheeks. So I don't really just forget the top line for a second. That second and third line, I don't really know which one's the second, which one's the third. I feel like they're both going to play similar minutes. And it kind of sucks because Genther's 7,700 on the top power play, and he may only play like 14, 15 minutes, which is a concern. So, I guess if those two middle lines, even though Genther and Carcone have played well together, I'd probably go to Hayton, Peterka, and Cheeks just because they're 11K, under 1% projected ownership. You don't need the full line. You go Hayton, Peterka as a cheap two-man. But my favorite line on the Utah side is that top line. Keller, Schmaltz, Krause at 18K, 11.7% projected ownership, 11.7% top two, 8.7% projected ownership. Now, they have good numbers in a smaller sample. The pace is good. They're controlling the play. It's not Woll in that. Now, Hildeby has been pretty good, but, Woll has generally been really, really good. It would be that top line. I don't love that they're 18K, but they're at home. So, I think you can do worse than them at 18K. So it would be Utah 1. If you need a filler, I'd probably go to the Hayton line just because they're so much cheaper than 7,700 Genther.
Yeah, we don't exactly know for sure what the Toronto lineup is going to look like. I assume because they moved McMahon up to the top line, that's how they finished, and McMahon scored the game-tying goal or the overtime goal, one or the other. I assume that's the line that's going to stay together, but we honestly just don't really know. Clayton Keller at 7,500 feels fairly overpriced to me.
Yeah.
He is 7,500. Alex DeBrincat is cheaper. Seth Jarvis is cheaper. Jake Gensel is cheaper. Nylander is cheaper. Brandon Hagel is cheaper. 7,500 feels like a lot of a fairly high price for a guy that's on pace for 25 goals and 75 points. You know what I mean? I don't know. If anything, I would probably play the Utah top line just because they have been able to control the play pretty well. 73 shot attempts, 2.6 expected goals. Nick Schmaltz has 45 shots in his last 16 games. He's the guy that's been taking the shots. Him and Keller have been playing around 21 minutes a game of late just because, without Cooley, they do have limited options of guys that can play a lot of minutes. Toronto's been pretty good defensively we keep talking about since Troy Stetcher. The last 25 games in the league, Toronto was 6th by goals against per minute in the NHL. It's not a great matchup for Utah 1. And it's not as if they're coming in with low ownership, 8.7% ownership. It's more than Winnipeg that we talked about, even though I don't really like Winnipeg, considerably more than Carolina. So I think Utah 1 is in play. I don't really like, if I'm going to play a line that's going to be like a 7, 8, 9, 10% owned in that price range, I'm going to play Washington. I'm not playing Utah here tonight. So kind of out on Utah. Like, I think for Utah, like one-offs, like I do think Genther is also overpriced, considering I agree with you. He's probably going to play like 15 minutes here tonight. But if you want to play him as a one-off, I think Nick Schmaltz as a one-off makes some sense. But like, I really don't have a ton of interest in Utah. My interest is honestly more on the Toronto side here. The top line since Stetcher got there with McMahon, 61 shot attempts, 3.3 expected goals per 60. McMahon has 31 shots in his last 10 games, and that's a good chunk of that time's been spent not on the top line. He's certainly come alive. His breakaway speed last night was just something else. He looked like he really hit another gear. There's no matchups on the Utah side I'm terribly concerned about. If it is, Matthews, McMahon, and Domi, like, sure, you probably only get one guy on the top power play unit. It's not really a great power play matchup for the Leafs anyway. And that line's only 16,600. Like, you giving me an Austin Matthews line that's been pretty good offensively in a decent 5-on-5 matchup, not a great one, but a decent one. It's 16,000 and change. Like, that's kind of where I am. I like Toronto 1. If you wanted to dip down to Toronto 2, go with that Michelli, Nylander, Tavares line, 16K, 1.7% top 2 stack, 0.2% ownership. I think that's okay. Maybe you want to take off Domi and go like McMahon, Matthews, Nylander or something like that. I think that's fine. But for me, it's the Toronto top line I like best in this game, and it's not particularly close.
Fair enough. Dallas Stars, they 3.4 total heading into Anaheim. Los Patos tiene un 3.2 total. I don't know. Sometimes you just got to speak Spanish. The Ducks are going McTavish, Gauthier, Granlund, Carlson, Seneca, Killorn, Kreider, Paling, Strome, because fuck them. That's why.
Yeah, and Jansen Harkins playing with Troy Terry on the fourth line.
Hell yeah. Dallas played last night, probably running back a similar lineup. Robertson, Hintz, Bork, Rantanen, Johnston, Steele. I would imagine the Carlson line will go out against top comp, and I would imagine that would be Johnston and Rantanen. That does free up McTavish, Granlund, Gauthier to miss the Lindell Heiskanen pairing. That would be the only line I'd have interest in on the Ducks side, but they're 15,400, 7.7% top 2, 9.5% projected ownership. Like, it's still the Stars. Like, I don't know, man. It is Casey DeSmith, but he's been excellent this season.
He's been better than Ottinger for a year and a half now.
Yeah, for sure. Like, he has almost a 930 save percentage on the season. Like, Harley and Petrovic aren't Heiskanen and Lindell, but you could definitely do worse as a second pair. I don't particularly love the Ducks here. I don't want to play Carlson, Seneca, Killorn. Don't want to play Kreider, Paling, Strome. Don't want to play Troy Terry on the fourth line. It would only be that top line, and it would be in MME only. This is an excellent power play matchup and 5-on-5 matchup for the Stars. I probably lean Hintz, Robertson, Bork just because of they've been better offensively at 5-on-5. Cliffy kind of highlighted Maverick Bork. He is a little bit bipolar. He'll either have no shots or 41 shots. But both of these lines are at 18,200. The Dallas Robertson line has a higher top 2, a little bit higher ownership, but that's where I would go. You could turn it into a power play stack. All these guys are wildly expensive. It gets complicated. But I think I'd rather power play stack Dallas here tonight than Edmonton. So you can make it work, but I would probably just go to the Robertson line.
Yeah. It's one of those things with Anaheim. Like, obviously it's been a terrible skid. I forget what it is, like 10-2 or something like that in the last 14 games. The percentages are grossly out of whack. Like, that's kind of something that, trust me, I love to make I'd love to make fun of teams when they're going through a skid as much as the next guy, considering, the few years I had to watch Montreal just get absolutely hammered. But over the last 20 games, Anaheim Ducks are shooting 9%. Like, you know what I mean? This is a team that's generating the second most shots in the league, only behind Colorado in that span. Still top 10 by expected goals for in that span. They're not scoring because they're shooting 9% as a team, which is, I think, the third or fourth worst mark in the league. Eventually, you'd think that would turn itself around. Maybe it doesn't, but considering they're top 10 by expected goals, I would assume it does. It makes me want to. It's one of those things where I'm probably going to be playing Anaheim a fair bit over the next 3 weeks to hope to catch them on an upswing before other people do, because I do think this is a much better offensive team than they've shown over the last 6 weeks. The question is kind of what do you do with them? Michael Granlund, man, holy Christ, I'm sick of that guy. Gauthier, McTavish, Granlund, 15,400. I was looking at McTavish and Gauthier's numbers when they don't have Seneca on the wing with them. 48 shot attempts, 1.7 expected goals, 4 per 60. I don't think Michael Granlund is going to be the cure-all to that offensive problem. So I'm out on Anaheim 1. By default, I would drop down to Anaheim 2 and go with Carlson, Killorn, and Seneca. I would probably take off Killorn and just go with Carlson and Seneca. I'm assuming, what they say about assuming, but I'm assuming that Carlson and Seneca will both be on the top power play unit. Dallas is taking a lot of penalties, 3.3 times shorthanded per game over the last 5 weeks, 5th highest rate in the league. Over the course of the season, tied for the 6th most time shorthanded per game. It's not as if they have a good penalty kill. They're kind of like Florida in that sense, where they take a lot of penalties, but the penalty kill is still good. But, you get 2 of the 3 guys on the top power play unit. Seneca's been unbelievably good this year, for a rookie especially, but just in general. That 2-man is under 10K combined. You can add in Killorn, and that entire line is 13,100. They're filler price. So I like Anaheim 2 here. Obviously, I like the Dallas side best. I think it's a very good power play spot for Dallas. Dallas isn't drawing a lot of power play opportunities. It's been a while since they have. I was looking since American Thanksgiving, power play opportunities per game, Dallas is the 3rd lowest rate in the league. Now, they can go 2 for 2 on the power play. They're that good, and Anaheim's that bad. But I do worry about limited opportunities. If I wanted to go with the power play guys, Wyatt Johnston's the first guy in my lineup, and then I go from there. In general, I agree with you. I think if I stack anything from Dallas, it's Robertson, Hintz, Bork at 18,200 with a 10% top 2 stack. I'm not really worried about any of the 5-on-5 matchups from the Anaheim side, but this is a game where I'd probably be tempted to go Johnston, Robertson, Johnston, Ranton, and Robertson, and then go punt 3 guys, something like that. Either way, if I want to focus on the power play guys, it's Johnston. If I want to play the even strength line, I go to Robertson, Hintz, and Bork. But I find it hard to leave Johnston off the lineup because it is a very good power play spot for Dallas, even in limited opportunities, and he gets very involved with the puck when they have the puck on the power play.
Let's talk about defensemen here. We don't have Chychrun in the projections, because he's a game time decision. Maybe we'll get news on that. But at the top of the board, we have Werenski and Bouchard. Werenski is 8,500, Bouchard 7,300. But then in the 6Ks, we have Heiskanen, Sanderson, Seider, Yossi, Carlson, Rasmus Anderson, and Darren Radish. Obviously, Zach Werenski in a great spot. He's going to play big minutes. Doesn't matter who the coach is. They'd be silly not to play him big minutes. So he would be number 1 for me. But if you can't afford that, I think I would go to Jake Sanderson, number 2, 6,600 against Vancouver back-to-back. It's just a mess there. I'd probably go Bouchard 3. I mean, he's expensive. And then, if Chychrun's out, obviously John Carlson makes a lot of sense here. And then I'd group, Heiskanen, Yossi, Rasmus Anderson, and Darren Radish all together. So if you like one of those guys, you could play him. I'd just probably go to the cheaper options. But Werenski 1, Jake Sanderson easily too.
Yeah. By the projection, like Zach Werenski is the top projected defenseman, obviously by over 2 fantasy points. He's number 1 on the board here tonight. Especially with Matejchuk out, like it's one of those things. Again, it's a new coach. We'll see what happens. I'm going to assume both Provorov and Werenski play between 25 and 30 minutes here tonight. Maybe both closer to 30 minutes. So Werenski for sure. Jake Sanderson has the best point per dollar value of any defenseman priced over $6K here tonight. So he'd be number 2. Number 3 for me would be John Carlson. If Chychrun is out, he'd be locked on the top power play unit, would have to play reasonable minutes, I guess. If Chychrun is in, then it would be Evan Bouchard, but it's not really a good power play matchup for him, so that worries me at 7,300. I'd probably just try to find the extra $1,200 to go play Werenski instead. Mid-price range, I'm not terribly excited about the options in this range. Mackenzie Weegar leads the overall projections here. Josh Morrissey not far behind. I'm not really super stoked on either of those. Charlie McAvoy, I think, makes sense at 5,200 for Boston. Decent power play matchup. Not a great one, but a decent one. Shane Gostisbehere for Carolina, 5,400. I worry about ice time there, but listen, man, it's the St. Louis Blues. Under 5K, Ivan Provorov, like I said, I imagine he's going to have to play a ton of minutes for Columbus here tonight. Same thing for Justin Falk from St. Louis. I don't like the Blues here tonight, but with no Broberg, Falk puts up peripherals anyways. He might have to shoot and block a lot of shots here. So I think Falk is definitely in play. Under 4K, Dylan Sandberg. I didn't see any official confirmation on Neil Pionk. We'll see if Pionk plays tonight, but Dylan Sandberg might have to play some extra minutes. I think Nyquist was a placeholder for him, so maybe Pionk is going to play, but I think Sandberg's still fine. Philip Hronik, again, for Vancouver, he's okay. Chris Letang, just because he's going to have to assume top power play duties for the Penguins, it's something. Esa Lindell projecting well. Damon Severson, again, he might have to play a few more minutes here tonight with no Matejchuk. Jake Wallman back for Edmonton. He's only, 3,400?
Something like that.
Yeah, he's 3,400 tonight. And this is a guy who, on a per-minute basis, puts up some of the best shot and block shot rates for any defenseman in the NHL. Maybe they don't play him 20 or 21 minutes. That might be the concern. He comes back and plays 16. He can get there for 3,400 in 16 minutes. So I really do like Wallman. Mike Matheson's under 4K. He scored last night. Matt Roy, really do like Roy tonight if there's no Jacob Chychrun in for Washington, because Roy might have to play 22 to 24 minutes. Under 3K, Brady Shea, Dante Fabro, Alex Carrier, double donked last night, and Tom Willander for Vancouver was back on the top power play unit last night.
Let's talk about some goalies here. Once again, don't particularly love the top range with, Hellbuck, Miralainen, Bussy, Yari, Thompson, Vejmelka. Obviously, Hellbuck is fine here. But 8,400, it's more of a cash game play for me. Don't really like the rest of the top range. There's 2 guys at 7,900 that interest me, Jack Greaves and Andre Vasilevsky. In the mid-range, I guess I could also mention Casey DeSmith at 7,800. In the mid-range, it would probably be Swayman. Oh, that's a little spicy. And for the cheaper guys, like Dennis Hildeby, I think is okay. I don't really want to play Joel Hofer, but I guess any goalie against Carolina is in play just off the shot volume. And if you need a cheap guy, be Sorokin.
Yeah. Second by overall projection, top by point per dollar projection is Jack Greaves at home against Calgary. He's my number 1 goalie as well. Really do like Greaves tonight. By the way, number 1 goalie, it's kind of like a misnomer. You know what I mean? Goaltending sucks, man. It always does. It's just the way that they're projected, though. Greaves number 1, Hellbuck number 2. don't mind Swayman. Certainly 7,600, good point per dollar value against a Detroit team that's back-to-back. For cheaper goalies like Sorokin, obviously it's 7K, I think makes a ton of sense. It's like if Winnipeg's top line doesn't score, they basically don't score. Obviously, second and third lines get goals every once in a while, but if they can shut down Scheifele and Connor, they're in trouble. So I like Sorokin. You don't want to play Greaves. I think going and play Dustin Wolf makes sense for playing against Columbus. And like you said, Dennis Hill to be 7,400 against Utah. Utah's power play has been pretty bad. So as long as the Leafs can hold them at 5-on-5, I think Hill to be could have a good night.
We will be back on Thursday. We're taking the day off tomorrow. I have some stuff to do, and it's a short slate. But who are you liking for your hat trick pick?
Funny enough, I just said that I like the goalie on the other side of the game, but I'm going to go with JJ Peterka.
I am going to go Morgan Geekie. New baby power.
Gotcha. I like it.
Yeah. So we'll see you guys on Thursday. Good luck, everybody, tonight. We'll see you in the Discord, and hopefully we're going to win a plethora of shekels tonight. Good luck, everybody.
Good luck tonight, everyone.